Good morning, everyone, and welcome to WAPPP Annual Congress Day 2. We will start today's agenda with Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects KAPP presentation on the latest PPP project pipeline, investment opportunities, and climate-related initiatives in Kuwait. I have the great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Naif, the Manager of Research and Strategic Planning in Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects, and who will be representing KAPP in this session. Mr. Naif has more than 20 years of experience in energy sector, working for Kuwait Ministry of Energy and Water, GCC Interconnection Authority, and KAPP. You can always refer to the detailed bio of Mr. Naif shown on his Hermit platform profile. Welcome, Mr. Naif. We are very happy to have you, and welcome to all our audience joining us today. I would like to invite you to use the Q&A box to post your question. At the end of the session, we will have a short Q&A where we will address all your questions. Now, I will give the floor to Mr. Naif for his presentation.
Thank you, Jinan. Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank WAPPP for hosting us today and giving the opportunity for myself and on behalf of KAPP, Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects, to present to you the case of Kuwait, the opportunities. I'm truly delighted and honored to have this opportunity to deliver. And I believe that, it will be the best opportunity for all of us to connect, to know each other, to share expertise, and as well as to explore the potential opportunities of working together with the public sector, similar public sector entities, as well as private sector. So if you just allow me, I'm gonna deliver a presentation right now. One second here. You could confirm that it's Jinan, is it on?
Yes, it's on. Yes,
Okay.
you can see.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about Kuwait. For those who doesn't know about what's happening here in Kuwait. So KAPP stands for Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects. So Kuwait is in a nutshell, as you can see, it's a very small country in the GCC region and the Middle East. We have a small population, around coming up to almost 5 million per capita. We have a constitutional monarchy in the state of Kuwait. It's a democratic state, and there is a separation between legislation, executive, and judiciary systems. We have a very high GDP. It's $136.8 billion, and the state depends heavily on oil production. And we have a high season right now, summer. So it's one of the hottest actually areas on the face of Earth. Kuwait is right now considered to be in a strategic location due to the turn of events in the recent region to the MENA, especially to the GCC region, with how the investment is going, how the traction, how the economic atmosphere is shifting down there. So I will discuss right now how the engagement with the private sector is happening in Kuwait. We have 3 entities in Kuwait that's engaging with the private sector. So we have KDIPA, which stands for Kuwait Direct Investment Promotion Authority. Now, this entity is a governmental entity that attracts for direct investment opportunities, and with up to 100% foreign ownership, directly BFIs. And we have already established a couple of businesses. IBM is located in Kuwait. Talk about Huawei. Talk about other GE has opened up in Kuwait with 100% foreign ownership. The other entity, which is unfortunately they don't have their own logo yet because they're part of the Council of Ministers, is the Supreme Council for Privatization, which is headed by the Prime Minister. Now they're involved with brownfield projects, and they've been working right now. They have a roll-up of projects, and there's one active project they're working on right now. It is privatization of a local, power plant owned by the Ministry of Electricity and Water. They want to shift it to be fully owned by the private sector. And you talk about KAPP, which is the focus of the presentation today. So KAPP is concerned with the public and private ventures. We talk about like long-term engagement up to 50 years per the law. And KAPP is right now currently the central agency, affiliated with the state's infrastructure projects. So KAPP has been established since 2014. Actually, it used to be, a small unit back in 2008. It was part of the Ministry of Finance, and I believe most of the governmental entities around the globe usually are initiated in that kind of manner. So in 2008, it has been working on like a couple of projects with an old state law called the BOT law, which actually didn't, generate any kind of rotation of projects till we have shifted into a new law, which was issued called the PPP law, issued in 2014. And KAPP is the main body right now responsible for implementation of, the projects. So I would believe the definition of PPP project is, all familiar to the attendance today. We have the same kind of, as you can see it, it's about delivery of public service. It has an economic, social, or importance to the state, and it's about like reduction of cost. It's about optimization of services, and to shift the state's role from being a service provider into a regulation and supervision. Now, what's our mission right now? To align our practices to be according to the best practices that's happening in the region. So, how KAPP is helping right now with implementing the state's projects? See, on the left side, you see this is the Kuwait's vision. Okay, the Kuwait's vision for like the 2030. So, this vision here, 2035, has 7 pillars, and we're engaging ourselves, through the state's mandate, and the pillar for economy, the infrastructure, the living environment, as well as the human capital. Talk about these PPP projects create job opportunities for the locals as well as transfer of knowledge. We're engaging ourselves with the infrastructure projects. Now these projects, usually any project that exceeds 60 million Kuwaiti dinars. Now, a Kuwaiti dinar, one single Kuwaiti dinar equals around $3, $3 US. So any projects that exceed the CAPEX, exceed that amount, we will establish a public joint stock companies. And 50% of the shares of that company will be allocated to the locals with good investment return on it. Now, we talk about a capitalist/social system that's happening here in the state. And in the same time, we talk about reducing the burden of the public expenditure, as well as attracting the foreign investment into the state. So the way the PPP is happening, it's contributing to the vision of 2035 and the pillars in it. Now, what do we have here in Kuwait? We have a legal framework. I'm going to just go through it here briefly. So we have a PPP law. We have a guidebook that was, collaborated with the World Bank, which was issued in 2018. We have a separate private IWV law, and it has been modified a couple of times. And we have PPP agreements, which are governed by local law and uses international arbitration. And these agreements have already been audited. They've been supervised by the state. Okay, so there's a commitment from the state of having a transfer system that's going on. Now, all of these laws and guidebooks and everything you will be finding, you'll be found in Arabic and English on our website. Now, if you look at the cycle, and believe me, this is almost exactly the same cycle that's happening in most of the region, even globally, global practice, and this is what we do here in Kuwait. So initially, we have a preparation project proposal. When a public entity comes to KAPP and asks that they want to tender this project, we'll be working with them on defining what's the business case, what's the proposal is, and it's essential to have a transaction advisor who will be conducting the feasibility study and giving us all the outputs and how, if this is there's a value for money for this project, is it worth it? Should the state participate in it? Is it a hybrid model, the kind of payment, or the risk matrix? All the kind of things that that should be included within a feasibility study. So we talk about environmental, technical, legal, and financial. And when we conduct the feasibility study, that's in the third phase, then all the results will be raised to our board of directors. Now, KAPP has kind of privilege that the board of directors for us is, I would say, a miniature of the cabinet of the council of ministers. So we have around like almost 5 to 7 ministers on that board of directors. And the reason they were big because to facilitate the works, because of the the sectors that affiliated it to assist KAPP and the public entity in proceeding with the projects. So if the feasibility study results were approved, that means we have a green light. Then we work on having and announcing the project in the expression of interest phase, and we go through like a releasing of RFQ documents to qualify. And let me tell you something: we qualify per project. Each project will be qualified to have its own listing, so we don't have a pre-approved list of qualified bidders. No, each project has its own qualification stage. So we evaluate these statements of qualifications. We prepare an RFB through all the way. We have like a financial close of the project. Is the stock joint company. So, how are we addressing the climate changes here in Kuwait? So, as you've seen from the previous slide, which we talked about, the 2035 vision and the 7 pillars, environmental concern and climate change is essential to us. So, I'm gonna display in the upcoming slides how integration of sustainable resources are taken into account, how this climate change is taken into account for us, as well as I would say the dependency of commitment toward improving the economy, as well as maintaining the state's obligation. Now, just part of the practice and by law, there has to be environmental study, and it has a social impact, environmental impact. The investor will make it, both winning the bid of a PPP project. But prior to that, even during the feasibility study, we will conduct our own feasibility study to determine how the project should proceed. And part of the thing that I'd like to mention that as like I have mentioned, I have compared with other entities around the globe. We use international arbitration as well as local arbitration, and that's to shed the scene on how we're dealing with, because some people just for example, they don't they may not find comfort in dealing with other entities, etc. So the thing is about it is that we have a good track record and commitment towards arbitration and towards code decisions. And in case, and this is what happened, for example, with COVID-19. Just give you a real case study that happened, or a real case that happened with us. And we signed for one of the projects I'm going to show in the upcoming slide. We signed a PPP contract for that project in January 23rd, 2020. And we were supposed to be financially closing in April 1st of the same year. COVID happened, the lockdown happened, a lot of things, they talk about locking down the airport, they talk about the workers not even to come because no visas, license has been issued to them. So we got back, sat down on the table, and such COVID was considered an unforeseen circumstances, and it falls into the commitment of the state as almost as just like any kind of, I would say, force majeure effect. So for that kind of purpose, we sat down and discussed what modifications should take place and what not, in order to, because in the end, this investment opportunity of a project is a state project that provides public service. So it's our highest priority to protect this project. In the end, it's I would say it's our own baby that we should protect it, And if I'm gonna tell you right now what are the pipeline that we have currently. This is the currently, but before we have mingled with a couple of sectors. We have mingled with the transportation. We have tried the health and education, and we have tried the retail, and I would say even the urban development and real estate. Now, currently this year, what I'm gonna display to you, we're focused on the energy and power and water and desalination project. And these projects, I'm just going to go through them right now. So for this year and the upcoming couple of years, I have 3 power projects. 2 of them are thermal. We have Azure IWB plant, a minimum of 2,700 megawatts. and up to 120 MIGDs. The beneficiary is the Ministry of Electricity, Water, and here in Kuwait. I already have a transaction advisor. I'm just within a couple of days gonna get hopefully my approval for the feasibility studies and the RFQ documents, so I could start, the RFQ documents, like hopefully to release it as soon as possible. I have another project as well, and also it's a thermal project, Al Kiran. It's an 1800 megawatts of salt capacity, the same advisor, and the same status. And I'm tending also for both these projects to release the RFQ as soon as possible, and just as soon as I get my approval from my board of directors. Now, another project which should gain interest, and this is the biggest project we ever have for a renewable project. So it's called Al Shigaya Renewable Energy Complex. Now, phase 2 and 3, this is what we're tendering right now. Phase 1 is already implemented locally here in Kuwait. Now, this one is big. We talk about like a minimum 3,000 megawatts of multiple technologies. Right now, currently, we're working on recruiting an advisor. We're just like waiting to sign the contract with this advisor. And once we're done, we establish feasibility study. We already have some kind of initial feasibility studies that we need, but we need an updated one. Once we finish that, I'm expecting hopefully by next year that we're gonna start the qualification and the tendering stage. Another project, which is a big one, and this one is almost a replica or a copy paste of the one that I told you about. Like we have like signed the PPP contract for. It's called North KAPP Wastewater Treatment Project. Now this one is a big one, 1 million cubic meters per day, and it's for the Ministry of Public Works. And right now we're working on preparation of recruiting an advisor for the project. And the next stage will be, after the recruitment, to kickstart the preparation of feasibility study. And this project, I'm telling you, is going to be a huge one. It's a replica from the one we did. That one, Al Hayman wastewater treatment plant. It was, I believe, the capex was like 385 million Kuwaiti dinars. Multiply that by 3, you get the dollars. I think it's almost like $1 billion or something. And that project is one of the toughest we've gone through. It had 2 PPP systems implemented, DBO and BOT, and within that, and I'm telling you, it's I'm truly personally happy about that project seeing the lights since it happened during the awful times like we got through, like through the lockdown, but we have gone through, and we are on very good track of implementation for the project. Now, why should anybody would be asking, why should I be doing PPPs in Kuwait? Well, we have a good credit rating. We have political stability. We have, I would say, recognized democracy that's happening like in such a small region. And the state right now is very serious and committed about engagement with the private sector. Now, the next development plan for the 5 years is focused on attracting foreign investment and engagement of the private sector to conduct the state projects. And there is also high need of the state to develop and improve the current services and to reduce the burden of the ongoing cost. At the same time, we have incentives through the system, through the laws, and through bilateral agreements with multiple nations for waiving custom duties or local taxes and multiple fees that could be included as per each project and the findings of the feasibility study. And at the same time, we I'm very proud to say this, that we have a very transparent competitive bidding procedures, and we have multiple external audit system that have in place to ensure that everybody have a fair chance to participate at KAPP projects. And we have also legally binding, and well drafted, I would say, contractual documents that has been audited, that has been checked, and it is working with the best practice in the region. Now, if we talk about what are the concerns right now with the climate and the resilience, so let me talk about what's, I would say, the challenges and the concerns here. So, and I understand here, excuse me, there are challenges from both parties. We talk about the public and the private. So the private sees that there's a lack of transparency in public planning and I would say announcements. That's, I understand. But at the same time, Me as a private sector, me as a public sector, I have an issue in dealing with the private sector because the private sector isn't willing to adapt or like to, I would say, deal with the mentality of the governmental mindset. Now that's an issue. We have to come like we have to come like I would say to a mutual ground to work on. Also, the private sector and sometimes even the international one have issues about understanding the local regulations and the laws. And that's why they have to familiarize themselves and conduct their own homework and due diligence about it. And the thing is about it, like one of the challenges that we see, and me, like even like when I see my other colleagues in the public sector, when there's hesitance and resistance towards privatization and letting go of like the state's own control over like such a project. And one of the, I would say, maybe the concerns that we usually have towards like engaging the private sector, we would like to see the private sector having commitment towards involving the local economy, using the local produce depending on the local manpower, engaging with B2B businesses here like locally. This is where it shows that how a PPP project would win over the public scrutiny that it could come up like maybe from the parliament, coming from the from the public. And this is like I think something everybody have a kind of familiarity with like across most of the governmental PPP units. Uh, One of the challenges we have here, like especially mainly as like KAPP in Kuwait, is we face challenge from other places that have a fast track procedure. And I believe that because they shift many stages of audit, sometimes they have like it's well contained. If it's a one man show, whatsoever, I know that. I understand, like that sometimes the frustration for the private sector that we have maybe a long-term cycle, we have multiple like audit stages, but this is to ensure that everything is going in transparent manner. This such transparency gives me comfort that to attract that I'm not gonna be biased against anybody or like with anybody. So I believe, yes, we take time. It sometimes kind of frustrates a lot of people, but in the end, I'm giving you the best result, and I would say the best, may the best price wins. So how to move forward in both the public and the private sector. So let's meet at certain points for the mutual gain for us, for both. Us today in the annual Congress of WAPP, and even the private sector attending, and I would say even, I'm calling out to the public PPP units. Let's share our experiences and the lessons learned. And I'm extending here, today, like, my hand to everybody about like sharing the experiences and see what happened across us from like, real cases that happened, how the systems are working, what kind of modifications or engagements or laws that you have, and how the benefit is. We would like to cooperate with the private sector, the local and the international, to promote Kuwait to attract foreign investment. Myself, I've been, and I would say encourage my counterparts in the public sector to establish periodic and continuous dialogue between the public and the private sector. I call on the private sector, like the banks, the lenders, the foreign delegates, embassies, business councils, international business councils, to sit down with them and discuss and hammer down all the issues in order to, in the end, this is a foreign investment opportunity. So let's utilize it. And that's why it's a partnership. And the state has to express firm commitment and goodwill in order to maintain the interest. And there has to be, I would say, a serious, I would say, commitment even from the state to ease the doing business within the state in order to facilitate the implementation of PPPs. And the state has also to, to prove its presence in the media. It's a modern age right now, and everybody will be resisting. I'm talking about like even the local, the public, if they don't see the benefits of how PPPs and communicated to in the best manner. And it has to be covered well. And that's what like we were working on. And that's what like, today I'm taking this opportunity to promote our projects in order to attract the interest. I believe I've come to the end of my presentation. Sorry for taking so much long. And I'll be taking the questions from here.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nai, for your presentation. I'm sure that you have established like a good template for PPP projects based on the like successful and not very numerous, but I mean successful PPP project you have done in Kuwait. Now we'll wait. Like I don't have like any questions from the audience, but we'll give like a couple of minutes for the participants if they want to like post any question in the Q&A box.
Sure. So Natalia is asking, any
If you
projects
have
in the health?
any
Yeah, go ahead.
project in the healthcare sector.
Yeah, any projects in the healthcare sector? Uh, Actually, thanks for the question, Natalia. Me myself, I'm a promoter, and I would say personally, I've been promoting and trying to work on social infrastructure, and this is truly crucial for us. We have worked in the past on one of the projects for, like, the health. I would like to see the private sector interest, so we could share it with the Ministry of Health. Actually, the Ministry of Health in here in Kuwait, they've been engaging the private sector through many ways and many means, but it hasn't come to fruition through, I would say, through CAP, or through, like, I would say, a direct PPP scheme. But we're depending on the private sector, and I gotta tell you something. Here, like, the population is depending heavily on private sector, like in healthcare. So it's a very good market, uh, and I hope that, like, maybe if you could share, expertise in the healthcare, if you could come out to us, and we could arrange, with the Ministry of Health, if you could we could see the experiences, how the healthcare has been improved through PPPs in other countries. It would be very good to promote such kind of concept to them.
Okay, we have another question on how they could like be in touch with your office.
Okay, I believe, if they want to get personally, could you just pass them my email? I think maybe you have to, contact, Gina.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think Natalie is asking. Do you consider? Oh, answer the proposals. Okay, it's okay. We consider answer the proposals, and most of the region here, they do have a little scheme of answer proposals. And to be quite frank, yes, we received multiple answer proposals, and we hope to receive more. Unfortunately, the current scheme right now, for me, just being very transparent, okay, the current scheme right now is maybe considered, I would say, unfair to the private sector, because we whatever we received as answer proposal with a feasibility study, and it's proven that it's going to be a successful PPP scheme project, we have to do it through competitive bidding, and they would have to compete against others. And so other people said, like, why we should be doing this? I mean, like, it's my own idea. See, that's a problem. See, the scheme is built around competitive bidding. We're right now in the process of fixing and modifying a lot of issues within our law. So hopefully that's one of the things. But in the meantime, if somebody is accepting to the current scheme and how the way it is made, and I would encourage them to check our website, check the law, and how it's made. If they accept that kind of scheme right now at the current time, let them. We I would be more than willing to listen to them and sit down and see, like, what kind of proposal they're coming up to. Okay. I believe I'll share my email for maybe like the quick Q&A. I'll just type it. Okay, so I think that's my email address. Just
The
type
email
it.
is posted already. The Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is it your unit that supports the training of professionals in your country?
Can you read that again? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Is it your
Yeah.
unit that supports the training of professionals in your country?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
Very vague the question because
yeah. No, it's a good question actually.
yeah.
We have worked on that since 2008. We have been working on it, and we even what we did is we kind of adopted a couple of professionals from other sectors from multiple entities and gave them professional certified training. And even actually when we established KAPP in the beginning, it was a collection of professionals from multiple entities coming into us, because like everybody has their own kind of field, like investment engineers, legals, etc. And we provide them with training. From time to time, we conduct this. We conduct such kind of thing, because in the end, I want my counterpart, in the public sector entity itself who's preparing the project. I want them to be, I would say, to the best manner, well aware and well educated in the PPP scheme and the mechanics of it. So that would be my best part of working together with the private sector. So yeah, we conduct this, and if somebody is like, I would say, maybe for example, any interested party is working on kind of delivery, we'll be like happy to hear from them.
Okay. Thank you. So I have another question about SDGs and if you consider SDG goals in the choice and design of PPP projects.
Yeah, Monica, I just showed that like in the slide we have like those that great vision for like 2035. Those 7 pillars are like I would say the whole containment of sustainable development goals. And that's something that's not even set by me, it's set by the state itself through a law. So if you go to the website called New Kuwait, it's called I'll just type it here. It's called newkuwait.com, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think that's the one. uh, that has the whole thing. And we take that into all the kind of consideration, because that's how like where the state is going.
Thank you very much. But I cannot see any more questions. So I guess that will be it. I mean, it's your last chance
Last
for
chance,
the
huh?
audience. Yeah, last chance for questions. Thanks a lot. Good presentation. Thanks for that. Oh, we have a question from Fatima, I guess. Thank you, Fatima. They're all saying great presentation. Thank you a lot, Mr. Nai, for your time and for presenting like project pipeline and all the initiatives that Kuwait is working on regarding climate and other things. Thank you very much. We had pleasure to have you present in our Congress. Thank you again for your time, and we're happy to have you again next year.
Jinan, thank you very much. I would like to thank personally you, Ziad, WAP, all the attendants today, all the associates and members of WAP, for giving us such an opportunity to present this. I believe this is our first time here like in this, and hopefully it's not
Yes,
going to be the last.
of course.
And I would like to thank everybody for listening. We'll be happy like to be in touch with everybody. And thank you very much, and wish everybody a successful day for the whole Congress event.
You too. Thank you very much.